Hi guys. When I was little, all I wanted to be was a princess. Me and my friends would spend hours dressing up and playing games. So I thought, why not throw it all the way back to childhood and make some princess dress cake truffles and swirled marshmallow castles to go with them. So the first thing I'm gonna do is start to model my dress bodies. So I've just got some lovely sponge cake here, which I baked off earlier. And I'm gonna pop it all in this bowl. Cool. So now I'm just literally gonna scrunch up with my hands until it's kind of a sandy consistency. Okay, now I'm gonna add in my buttercream and make sure it's completely worked through all the cake crumbs. Okay, so I'm gonna take about 1 cup of cake dough for the base of our dress. This is gonna make up like the skirt. You just wanna smooth it with your hands so that the base goes into sort of a circle shape. And we're looking for about 3 inches across the bottom. This is gonna make the bottom of your dress. And now I just wanna squidge that shape into more of a sort of triangular but rounded off shape so that we're thinner at the top. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna move on to my bodice. And for that, you just need 1/4 cup. Now with this, I'm gonna start off by making a sort of log cylinder shape. And now that we've got about the right height for our bodice, I'm just going to pinch the top here to make the kind of shoulders and just make 2 inserts here. Take away the excess and then just smooth these little bits off. You can pop it on its side and just trim so that it makes a nice kind of little V shape to attach to the top of our actual dress. Lovely. And now we can again just smooth off the rest of the bodice and make sure anywhere that we've cut with the knife doesn't look like we have. Round off the edges. So now that we have our bodice and our skirt ready, we can continue and make 3 more so we have 4 princess dresses. So now that I've finished forming my bodices, I'm just gonna grab some doweling and put 1 in each of the bodices, just in between the shoulders. So I'll just pop the last one in. These are ready to be set aside whilst I just clean down and then we can crack on with decorating. Now that we have the elements of our dresses shaped, it's time to get going with colouring and decorating. So I'm gonna start with my yellow dress and I'm gonna take these yellow candy melts that I've just melted down in the microwave and pour it all over the bodice and then just crack on the sprinkles. So do a nice even coating. You want them to be completely covered. Now I'm gonna do exactly the same thing to the skirt. So now these have been dipped and sprinkled, I'm gonna set them aside for about 10 minutes. And while they dry, I'm gonna crack on with my swirled marshmallow castles. Now making marshmallow is actually super simple, but it's a very impressive trick to learn. So your gelatin just needs to go into a bowl of water. Whilst that's blooming, I'm gonna crack on with my hot ingredients. So in a small saucepan, I'm gonna combine water, light corn syrup, and sugar. And now we're heating these up until they reach 240 degrees. Whilst that's happening, we can pop our other corn syrup into our stand mixer. So you can tell that the gelatin's ready because it's become hard. That's called blooming. And that's ready to go into the mixer. I'm just gonna pop this on a low speed to combine the corn syrup and the gelatin. And so we've reached 240, so I can just take this off the heat. And now I'm just gonna add this very slowly in a sort of thin stream. Now this can go right up to high. And we'll just leave that, and over about 5 to 6 minutes, it's gonna become thick and fluffy and glossy, almost like a meringue mix. While that's mixing, I'm gonna prepare my tray and my food coloring. So here I've got a tray lined with greaseproof paper and sprayed with some non-stick spray. Now I've got 3 food colorings. We're gonna go with pink, green, and yellow. I might just give it a little pause and see how the mixture's looking. So I'm gonna turn it off. This is currently, I'd say, a little bit too runny. It's looking pretty good. I'm gonna have another look. It's kind of pulling away from the bowl now. That's something to look for. So as you can see, when you lift the whisk this time, it just sort of drops a bit slower, but you are still getting that beautiful ribbon. So that is the ideal texture that you're looking for. So now it's time to color. So I'm gonna drop in just around the bowl 6 drops of pink food coloring. I'm just gonna add 4 of green and then another 6 of the yellow. And then with a spatula, rather than folding and stirring, I'm just gonna kind of jab and pull up a little bit, and that's gonna get our lovely streaks in there. Cool, so I'm gonna start pouring now in a kind of lengthways action so that we get a nice thin, even layer of the marshmallow. Now, as soon as it's on the tray, if you're gonna do any swirling, I've got a little cocktail stick here. I'm just gonna take my spatula and nudge it into the corners a little bit because I haven't got it too even. Once that's done, you want to pop it aside until it's set. So now that our components have dried, we can crack on with the fun bit of finishing off the decoration. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just take this bag of candy melts. So just snip off a small hole at the end. You don't want it too big. And then you can take a little small dot in the center, and this is gonna just glue down my skirt. Whilst that's setting, we can move on to our bodice. And then again, whip off the parchment paper. Before I stick it to the skirt, I'm just gonna add some of the bits of decoration. I've just rolled out some taffy here, nice and thinly, and then used a love heart, sort of like a love heart with a square bottom. And so it's just gonna use a little bit down the center, and then that can go straight on. Looking good. Now, my second element for the torso is gonna be our shoulders of the dress. So I'm gonna take a little jelly bean, and you can snip it in half with scissors, paring knife, whatever's easier. And I'm gonna do 2 on each shoulder, and just hold them for a second or 2, just so they're connected and starting to set. So I'll do the same to the other side. Now that's setting, I'm gonna measure round the waist of the torso for my belt. So I have some of these kind of sugary rainbow belts here. And now I've measured that, I can stick this on top of my skirt. This is feeling pretty firm, but I'm just gonna leave it for a second until it completely set. And while that happens, I'm gonna measure these little bits here. I'm gonna have the belt around the middle, but I'd like to have 2 other ribbons. So now it's time to add our belt. The next thing to do is our buttons. I'm gonna add 3 buttons down the center of the skirt here. I'm gonna pipe a little dot of candy melts actually onto the tray. So you just wanna take a bead with some tweezers and dip it into the candy melt. So I'm going to add 3. So I'll take my second one. So now that all my buttons are on, our final finishing flourish is to just fill in this hole where our doweling was in the torso. And then I've actually got spare beads here from my tray. Fill in the top. And then also, just to make this look a little bit more colourful, we can fill in the base of our cake stand with any spare beads that you have left over. So that is pretty much done. Now I can move on to my 3 other dresses, and I'm gonna do 3 other colours, 3 different designs, and carry on with those. So now that my cakes are finished, I can finish off my Marshmallow Castles. I'm just gonna combine those and then whisk them together. And this is just gonna make your marshmallows less sticky and easier to cut out. So I'm gonna pop this into my sifter. You can sift the icing sugar mixture over your marshmallows. And then once I've got a nice layer, I'm gonna flip it out onto my board. So I'll just sift my breadboard as well, make sure we've got lots of nice coverage. So you're just gonna flop it over like that. Peel away your grease proof, and then we'll sift this layer as well. Just do a little bit on the cake stand, not too much. And then I'm gonna take my Castle cookie cutter and start cutting out the marshmallows. Now you might find that these are a little bit tricky to get actually out of the cutter, and if that's the case, then you can take a cocktail stick or anything really and poke it out of the mold. So let's give it a go. And you just want to coax those last little bits out of your cutter, and then that's it, you've got your castle. Pressing in really firmly and give it a really good wiggle. I love marshmallows. Every summer when I was a kid, we used to go camping and we'd toast them on the fire on little cocktail sticks, and they really are the most delicious. It means summer for me. And you can take your time with this, just be really gentle. Now they're done, I can't wait to show you my finished princess dress cake truffles. So as you can see, I've finished all 4 dresses and I am so excited to show them to you. I've got gorgeous sanding sugars here, sour strings and belts. We've gone for like jelly beans, flour candies. You know, when you're making yours, you can pick whatever you'd like. You can do contrasting colors or go like I have with a theme. It's totally up to you. And of course, every princess needs her castle. This way, you can have your cake and eat it too.